What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. Fix that a little bit. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. And on this week's show, we have a jam-packed show this week. Let's see here. I'm also have a new computer. On this week's show, Josh Davis talks to Stephen Potter, who is the director of the AAF documentary Alliances Broken, available August 10th. So by the time you see this, you can actually pre-order it now on Amazon Prime and I think a couple other spots. So you definitely want to check that out. Plus, we got some news about CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie. So he gets to talk to him about. I'm super excited about this documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. You can go get it now. You can pre-order it, and it should be out tomorrow, August 10th. Check that out as well. We got that and so much more. We got the trailer, and we got a great interview lined up for you on this week's show. Also, make sure before we get started, if you want to be part of the show, you email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love that kind of stuff. We'll read it on the show. That gets the word out. And, of course, give us a subscribe and like. Like this video right now. If you're checking it out, give us a like. Spreads the word about XFL News Hub. And make sure you subscribe because every week live on Mondays at 8 p.m., we give you the latest XFL news. Now, I just got a new computer. So I'm messing around with the configurations and all this other stuff. So we'll get that worked out. Coming up this show, what I wanted to talk about is two things. First, of course, about our CFL show. That's on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on CFL News Hub. And that actually did some great numbers for its first go round, and subscriber base is going up. We ask you guys, but I'm going to start off by giving my take of reaction to the CFL's Week 1 games. And we'll get into your reaction later in the show. But for me personally, if I were to rank everything, and I was like, just be honest, you might upset some people or whatever. If I had a choice, at least right now, I would pick, as far as the rule set goes, and this isn't me being a homer, it's just why I like what I like. I still think the XFL rule set is number one. CFL rule set to me was number two. If I had a choice between spending my hard-earned dollar, I would pick an XFL game first. I would pick a CFL game second, and then an NFL and college game. The reason why I like both the XFL and CFL is I like the pace. It's a quick pace. Where the NFL is like slow. It's almost like baseball slow. It's not that bad, but it's just slow and kind of reset and take your time. It was kind of what I liked about the pace. The problem with the CFL goes back to, and I was discussing this with one of our writers. I'll just leave his name out of it. But a couple of the guys on the staff weren't too impressed with the CFL. Partly, one of them said to me that, one of the games that they watched, there was like 20 punts in the game. I think my only issue is, and I'll say this on my other show too, is that it's the 3 downs, not because, I get why you need 3 downs because it's a wider field and there's more players, but it's a wider field and it's moving faster. Like, I get that part, but it was kind of frustrating at times watching the game and being like, dude, if you don't get to, the 5 yards on the first play, like, you're essentially done. And there was a lot of it where it's just like 2 plays punt, 2 plays punt, 2 plays punt. However, I like the pace, I like the players, I like the wideness of it all, and wide receivers running around, and it's more of a pass-happy league. Even though some guys put up some great running numbers too. It's still going to take me a little while to adjust to it, but honestly, if you didn't give it a shot, you should definitely check out. There'll be another game on ESPN2 and then ESPN Plus. They're on replay, so you can check them out too. But I'm still not. The jury is not out on me, but I prefer the pace of both leagues over the NFL. I just feel like the NFL is just slow monotonous. Where these ones, like I look down on my phone and checking something out, and next thing you know, the team is 2 and out, and I'm like, you really need to pay attention as this goes on. So something to check out. We'll get into your reaction to that. We'll get into Randy Ambrosie, but of course we got our interview and so much more. But that's my reaction. So if you want to check out CFL stuff, it's CFL News Hub show on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. and that's on YouTube. Just look up CFLNewsHub.com. That's where we're covering the CFL. So I'll get hate no matter what. But that's my take. Right now, I would choose the XFL rule set number 1, just because they give me that extra down of offense, and I want that extra down of offense to see what we can do. But I really like both leagues, and pace is a big part of the reason why I like both leagues. So check it out for yourself, see what you think about that. But on to the show, we'll get into some news, then we'll get into our interview. We'll talk about where some players are headed, and we'll talk to our friends in the chat. So without further ado, let's just get into the week that was the XFL, shall we? All right, first up in the news this week, Randy Ambrosie, just before the CFL season kicked off, he said he's not ruling out more talks with the XFL. So in a recent report by Dan Ralph, and we've talked about him before, even though he was on the Markcast and said that, he was just asking the questions, but he's the one that's writing about it, and Randy's the one that's answering. You have to hear that episode when they were talking about that. But CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie says he hasn't shut the door on resuming talks with the XFL. Talks between the two leagues broke down mutually in July, just before training camp was to begin, but Ambrosie had this to say in a recent press conference, quote, "We both decided and agreed that we would go back to our respective businesses and focus on our own leagues for now. We haven't set any plans to reconnect, but because the relationship was positive, the door was left open for the possibility that we talk again down the road. But today and the foreseeable future, it's all CFL all the time." Close quote. Randy Ambrosie. Now, both leagues suspended play in 2020 due to you-know-what, and we know what happened, the XFL and Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, the rest is history. The commissioner didn't go into detail as to what in the talks did produce. However, he said this, quote, "It would be disingenuous to suggest that we didn't talk about everything. Now we've got our game, our league, and our own future to navigate, and I think it's going to mean having conversations about how we take our league to the next level. How do we grow the game? How do we double, then double again, and double again our success? We'll have an opportunity for consultation with our stakeholders, our fans, with amateur football, with university football, because we don't need to grow the CFL. We need to grow football in Canada. We need to make our game stronger," close quote. That was, to me, an interesting take. I get criticized for conspiracy theories or whatever. Again, I've been in the media business for 20 plus years. When these guys say things, it's not just off of a whim. It's kind of pointed comments. And I thought one of the interesting things that he said that really jumped out to me, he says, with football, because we don't need to grow the CFL, we need to grow football in Canada. I thought that was an interesting line. And I always ask, why did he need to say that and say it that way? And I was like, that kind of stuck out to me. He did go on to say that not considering outside of the box methods to build the CFL's foundation would be akin to insanity. They say that he goes on to say this. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We'll be encouraging everyone to get out to look at where our possibilities to grow and expand our game, because that we really owe to the game is long-term success. True. I'd continue to encourage our board, certainly myself and my team, that we keep our eyes open, we keep our ears open, and we keep our minds open to new possibilities. That's across the board. The XFL, of course, plans to come back in 2023. We all know the rest is history there. So what struck me in this thing, and I don't care. Like, listen, this is my show, and I'm just going to do what I need to do and feel what I need to feel, regardless of what people say. But I found this interesting about the part about where he said we don't need to grow the CFL, we need to grow the game of football. And we all know that the CFL has had struggles with trying to, that older demographic is still into the game, trying to bring in that younger demographic. Hey, ratings were good, attendance was good. We'll see how the season goes. And plus, with everything going on and across the world, I'm a little concerned for all sports at this point as things continue forward. But for now, everything is looking good. If we were to go back and talk about the CFL, and basically you had MLSE and some of and maybe potentially the Alouettes were really on board to working with the XFL, and then the Prairie teams weren't, like the Edmonton Elks and others who they don't, were making a decent living and basically didn't want to change. If you put that context into these statements, it makes more sense, because he's basically telling the board that basically said no to the XFL, in my opinion. He's saying we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's exactly what he said. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Makes sense. Something needs to change. He's basically telling them. And then he says, I continue to encourage our board, and now this is, what do you call them? A compliment sandwich, sort of. He's basically saying, and the board, and then myself and our team as well. Clearly, he's been him and his team have been keeping his eyes and ears open. He was encouraging our board to do that. So I think there's a sector inside of the CFL board of directors that wants to just keep things the way they are, and there's another one that needs to evolve it. And I think his message here that we need to, number one, the criticism about the CFL early on when these talks began was like, hey, you haven't said anything to the fans, and especially this impact that you're going to have on amateur football and university football, because some play 4-down football and some play 3-down. And that would be a huge thing if the CFL were to change its rules without consulting them. By him coming out and saying that they want to grow the game, and make sure that we consult with our stakeholders, our fans, the amateur football leagues, the universities, and because we don't need to grow the CFL. We need to grow the game of football. To me, he's saying this is about growing the game of football in Canada, and this isn't about 3-down football and the CFL rules per se. It's about growing the game of football in Canada. And to me, to grow the game in football Canada might have to mean that you get rid of the 3-down rule and change other things. You can make the game better. The XFL proved that you can modify the current structure to make it better. People are going to die on the hill for 3-down football. Hey, man, if it's not paying the bills and people aren't making money and people aren't watching it, they are right now, and I think fans will support the league through this season. We'll see how the numbers are towards the end of the season. But again, I can't really hinge it on, because you know what's going on. To me, he was kind of potentially laying the groundwork that some kind of change is coming in the CFL. Now, where does this leave the XFL? Do I think they should get together and all this other stuff? Hey, and XFL fans have been pretty vocal and pretty critical right now. Their fans are getting tired of what the XFL is not doing, which is telling us anything. We have no idea what's going on. I get it. Now you have football, NFL coming in. But we've said it before. Mark Cass has said it also. You need to have some kind of announcements, like where's the PR? Like, what are you guys doing? So I think these talks with the CFL, really open their eyes up to possibilities. Whether the XFL comes through and has a season in 2023, again, I put my money with The Rock and Danny Garcia any day of the week. It's just frustrating that we haven't heard anything. But these quotes from Randy Ambrosie really kind of stuck out to me as that there could potentially be some kind of significant change to the CFL after this season. However, I think there's people that want change in the CFL and there's people that don't. And that battle is going to come to a head after this season, that's for sure. We'll have to see how this story plays out for certain. Some XFL news. Josh Johnson has signed with the New York Jets. This is pretty awesome. Has some familiarity with the coaching staff at with the New York Jets. And then they have, with Zach Wilson is on board. They have a couple other younger quarterbacks. So Josh Johnson, upon signing with the Jets, now begins his 17th stint on an NFL roster. He said he played in the AAF. He was drafted in the AAF, but he never played in the AAF. So Josh Johnson, our own Mike Mitchell, is very excited to see Josh Johnson on the New York Jets. So congratulations to him. Jets also signed another former XFLer, Roughnecks linebacker Edmund Robinson, who I also thought was a good player. So he signed on with the Jets too. He played in Atlanta last year, and they brought him on board, which I thought was great. Falcons have waived injured former Renegades wide receiver Jeff Badet. He bounced around on a couple teams during the NFL deal last year, but he is out. Not really sure what exactly his injury was. The Denver Broncos signed former Roughnecks Savion Smith. He always get cut so many times. The guy was on Dallas, then he was on Seattle. He was on Dallas twice. Then he got signed by Seattle, and then now he's on the Denver Broncos. He played well in the XFL, but now he is on a team as well. Carolina Panthers, they signed former Defenders linebacker Jonathan Celestin. Congratulations to him. He's on board with the Carolina Panthers, joining a couple other former XFL guys, including P.J. Walker. We like that. Finally, Cole Boozer, he signed with the Washington Redskins, but then quickly he was released not too far after that. We're not really sure what the situation is. So he was signed, was out, but apparently the Washington worked out somebody else, and another one of the guys from the DC Defenders might be signing on with them. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. So that's it for the news, my friends. We will get into more of your stuff. Hey, what's up? I just want to say hello to our friends in the chat room. Paladin's in there. Jonathan's in there. What's up? He Hate Me is in there as well. We'll get to all stuff on the social media, and let me know in the chat room and on Facebook. Remember, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. What did you check out the CFL games? What your thoughts of them were? Why you did? Why you didn't? But we're going to take a little commercial break, and we will get to the interview about the Alliances Broken documentary. So looking forward to checking it out. We got the trailer and the interview right after this, my friends. Stay tuned. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today.
On February 5th, there are tens of millions of Americans that stop watching professional sports and stop playing fantasy altogether.
The Alliance of American Football wants to change that.
The Alliance sold a fucking dream.
Yeah, it's going to be a brand new professional football league launching a week after the Super Bowl. And they say that they have cutting edge technology, that they're going to change the sports gambling landscape, and they're going to make the game faster and safer than the NFL. So we'll see.
He's a dreamer, plane crash survivor.
The brains behind the operation. His name was Charlie Ebersol.
He's funny.
And I think depending on who you talk to, he's either sort of the Willy Wonka of this entire thing or one of the most hated people in spring football.
We all worked 24/7, night and day for the first 3 months until February 9th.
They're saying, this is too good to be true.
Why can't we just figure this thing out and get good business and good football and put it together?
Just focus on selling tickets. Just put butts in seats and you'll still have your job.
Charlie Ebersol thought he could walk right into NBC or Fox.
He was a little bit larger than life. He drove around with the chauffeur when Uber and Lyft were readily available.
We couldn't wait for that first check to hit. We were getting paid cash.
First little PR stunt came out, said, hey, you know what? Just had a little bit of glitch in the numbers. Don't worry about our payroll.
Is that true?
Payroll?
How could you possibly, after week one, fail to pay the players?
I've seen a figure of $20 million. That's what they invested.
It's kind of hard to spend money when maybe the FBI is seizing your assets.
This was the Fire Festival of Sports. A complete disaster.
I think we reached full circus mode on March 25th when Charlie started to interact with Eminem.
It's crazy that it's downplayed like this, but these are world-class athletes.
We went from brand new equipment, halftime at the Super Bowl, to stop taking our hot sauce because we can't afford to replace it anymore.
Breaking news tonight in Birmingham, the Alliance of American Football has suspended operations.
I just moved us all the way across the country. We just bought a house. I just lost my job.
You have no idea the amount of lives that you have screwed over.
It was all over in the blink of an eye.
Hey, where's the camera? Let me show you something. Man, can somebody roll me one? Like, we really gotta talk.
This is Josh Davis with the XFL News Hub. Sitting here talking to Steve Potter, the director, the filmmaker of the upcoming AAF documentary Alliance is Broken. This is something that in our world, in our circle, something that a lot of us have been looking forward to, because many of us that are XFL fans were AAF fans or still love the AAF and what it meant to these players and these coaches and the people that were involved, that were able to continue a dream that they had for most of their lives, including the staff and the employees at each venue or each city. And that's kind of where this documentary goes, from what I understand. But first, before we get into that, just give us a little bit of a background on you and you know, how you got into doing this type of stuff, doing the filming and the filmmaking.
Absolutely. So first, thanks again, man, for having me. I appreciate it. So yeah, a little bit of background on myself. I'm from New Jersey, South Jersey, close to Philadelphia, so I'm a diehard Eagles fan.
Yes, sir, me too.
Grew up, loving sports my whole life. So when it came time to go to college, I wanted to do something in sports. So I went to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida, which is, Orlando, home of the Apollos. And, I ended up kind of getting involved in the sports scene down there. I spent some time over at Fox Sports in Orlando, and I caught wind of this new sports league that's coming up, and, they were looking for a ton of promotion and, everybody to get involved in any way, shape, or form. So I actually ended up knowing some of the players that played at UCF, because what the league did was they pulled guys from their local college allocation. So I knew some guys that played at UCF that ended up going to the Apollos. So I was doing some kind of side promo work for some of the football players, and I kind of got to know them pretty well throughout that process. And they were basically just a lot of the times talking about how the league's a disaster and it's a shit show, and everything's kind of a little too good to be true, I guess you could say. So I was like, damn, I saw the XFL documentary. This was the XFL, and then I also saw the one about the USFL, the Small Potatoes one with the one with Donald Trump. And I was like, man, this is like the same story. It's like it's very similar. And I, wanted to go to make documentaries. That was kind of my goal. So I was like, I'm going to start filming these players' experiences as they're kind of going through this. And then within like 2 weeks of that happening, the league filed for bankruptcy and closed their doors. So I was kind of in the right place at the right time from a journalistic perspective, and had a bunch of upset staff workers, and I knew some of the staff because they actually, I went to college with some of them, and just, again, from the local Orlando sports scene, I knew a decent amount of people in their front office. And everybody was just like, they heard I was doing at the time, it was just more of a smaller type documentary, and everybody said, oh, I want to talk, and I want to tell what happened to me and share my story. So I ended up filming like a ton of people, and then other teams in other cities caught wind of it, and they were like, oh, can we be in it? So it ended up, what I thought was going to take a couple weeks to film, to do like a small little, YouTube mini documentary, ended up being almost a 3-year process, feature-length film. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it, and it literally just fell in front of me. So.
Nice, and we know that it comes out soon. August 10th is the date that it is supposed to be available. How can before we get more into it, how can people watch it?
So if you head over to Amazon Prime or Prime Video, whatever way you browse Amazon Prime, just type Alliance is Broken in, and it should be like the first one that pops up. And it also will be available on Apple TV as well.
Gotcha. Apple TV and Amazon. Good. I subscribe to Amazon, so I'll be patiently waiting for that to come up. What other has this opened up any doors for you to do anything else in the business or anything else outside of football? Has this helped you further your career in the documentary or filmmaking business?
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly like within the couple of weeks that it opened up. When we put the trailer out, I got a couple calls from 2 NFL teams asking if I'd be interested in working for them, and which I wanted to kind of stay away from sports for a little while and get into some more of extreme sports. So I started a documentary on New Jersey East Coast surfing, which is my next project that I'm working on, and we've been filming for like 2 months now, which is pretty cool. So yeah, already moving on to the next one.
Nice. Now, is there any certain story types or tales from the documentary that you want to try to focus on, or anything interesting that you found while you were making the movie? Excuse me.
Yeah, no, definitely. The biggest thing was honestly, I kind of went into it with the vision of like, hey, I'm just going to tell the story of this league front to back, how it opened, how it closed, and where it's at now.
Right.
Which was totally raw. I would say not ignorant of me to do, but that was kind of just what I thought, right? You didn't really realize how many people were truly affected by this in many other ways than just, I'm not playing football anymore. There's so many people that their lives were literally uprooted and kind of left stranded, in various cities. And the film follows one guy in particular. He used to play for the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans. His name's Chris Martin. He is one of the greatest dudes on the planet. He and his family opened up their doors, allowed us to come in and really document their whole family dynamic, which is, again, much larger than just football. And it talked about a lot of things we covered is their experience with the AAF, stuff that got their hopes up as, whether it was financial encouragement that, could have improved their family lifestyle, or just their passion to be around football. And that's a lot of what we covered was people who wanted a career in sports and wanted a career in football, and they just kind of got left to the curb. So that's really what the film kind of covers. It's more of the people dynamic and, what happened to them as people and as employees of sports, and also it does cover obviously what happened in the league, but it really tells it from the employee/football player's perspective. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's often a part that's not really focused on is everybody in the peripheral. The vendors, the staff at the stadiums, the people in the office for the teams. I know that they were a single entity, but they still had people working for the teams on a regular basis, and those guys are often not thought of when it comes to these types of things. And one of the things, and I don't really want to put them both in the same box because they're not, but at the same time, part of it is one of the things that I try to do is I cover a lot of these alternative leagues, the spring leagues and indoor leagues and international leagues, and I also focus on things that are promoted and put in front of people that are actually scams that don't necessarily actually get off the ground, and people are given a lot of promises and then nothing ever happens. And I have talked to a lot of people who have been involved in certain things, and I won't name any leagues that I'm talking about, but I've talked to a lot of people, coaches, trainers, people who even at venues that were told that they were going to get full-time work and quit their other jobs, and some players had given up college eligibility to be part of one of the leagues, and guys gave up their homes, gave up their apartment leases to move to where they were supposed to be playing, and these guys are those types of stories are often not heard and not necessarily known because they don't really talk about it a lot. But this documentary seems to do just that.
Yeah, exactly. That was the biggest focus for us, was that you could talk to every rich CEO that was involved, and he could tell you, oh, it wasn't that bad. We got everything covered, and that was definitely the angle I didn't want to take because, like I said, I knew a lot of these guys on a personal level, and I knew what they were going through, so I knew that it was not as simple as, oh, we just closed down and moved on. It was, now they have a 30-year mortgage on a home that they can't afford because they were promised, $150,000 a year to work for the league, or they were promised, X amount of dollars in play time and endorsements and, everything along those lines, that there was a lot of empty promises. And that was, we interviewed Steve Spurrier, and that was the biggest thing he said was that everything was just a lot of empty promises. There was everybody was led to believe something. Everybody that they got to work for them was led to believe something that just, ultimately never came true. And that was the big question a lot of people, had was this a scam? And it's like, you honestly, it looks like it, and you don't know because you don't really know what everyone's intentions truly were because nothing was 100% truthful about this whole process.
Yeah, and that's the heartbreaking thing is a lot of guys, not just players, like you said, a lot of guys have dreams of working in the sport, and when something like this comes up, because there are a finite amount of spots, even with anything, in the NFL or college football or anything else. And then when something else comes up and it has all this promotion and it has all these big names, and when it does go into, markets and cities and that these things are coming and you get excited and you go into it and then it's not at all what you were told and it doesn't work out, not because of just regular business things that can happen, it's from the top. And, it's really heartbreaking. So I really appreciate you, talking with us and, spending time. Again, the video, debuts on August 10th. That's just a few days from this recording, less than a week away. I'm very excited. I know the rest of the people, in our circle are as well. And everybody that was a fan, I know we're all looking forward to this. So once again, I thank you for talking with us.
Awesome, Josh. Thanks so much, man, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Is there anything else that you talked about your other project. Is there anything else before we go that you want to promote, that you want to put out there, or you want to say about anything, whether it's the documentary or anything else going on with you or anything important in your life?
No, man. I would just say I'm super pumped for everybody in the football world and who in the sports world to see this project. It's something me and my friends worked a lot on, and I'm really excited for everybody's story to be told.
Yeah, it looks really good in the trailers that we've seen. So we're really, really excited to see it. So thanks again.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it, man.
Yep, no problem.
All right, so there you have it. Stephen Potter, director of the AAF documentary Alliances Broken, will be available on August 10th on Amazon Prime and then of Apple. My dang thing keeps moving. All right, there we go. On Apple, and so super excited to watch that, and I am sure you guys are too. What's up in the chat room? He says, Richard says, I'm going to watch The Alliances Broken. Yes, me too. I cannot wait for it to come out and take a look at that. Let's speaking of taking a look at stuff, we'll get to our chat friends in a second. Let's get to our social media stuff first. On the social, we have, so this is one of the things that we asked was, and I saw this on XFL Reddit, is they asked, did you watch any CFL games this weekend? CFL opening weekend was this weekend on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. I watched it for the first time and thought it was really good. And they asked everybody who they who they watched. Now I'm just gonna say, I'm not logged in. Voting yes. Let's see here. I'll get back to that, but basically, let me see here if I can get to the results. I was kind of surprised by the results. All right, I'm gonna have to grab another browser. Stand by 1 second. The results were in for the Reddit one. This kind of stuck out. Here we go. They had 1,125 votes. And it was, let's go to 170 yes and 955 no's. So 170 yes and 955 no's, which I thought was a lot. I was a little surprised. So it's like, all right, well, let's put that same thing out there on XFL News Hub, and let's see what we got out there, since we kind of, our fans love alt football. We got XFL fans, did you watch the games? 59.9% said yes, with 40% saying no. So it's 142 votes, and there's still time left if you want to vote on that. So it's a mixed bag. About half of our audience watched the games, which that's kind of what I thought it was. I was really surprised that on Reddit, people were like, nope, definitely did not watch that at all. So we'll get to some of your reaction in a second. On the Facebooks, we asked this question, did you watch the games? James says, I did. CFL is actually a lot of fun to watch. Cordaro says, yep, it was pretty good. Bill says, yep. So across the board, everybody was saying, yeah, we watched it and we enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I'm glad that we're covering it. And I'm glad that we separated the XFL fans from the CFL fans, because I think they're kind of two different beasts there. But some XFL fans got a chance. Now, whether or not they stick long term, whether the Canadian fans stick long term, once we get into September, we'll have to see with the NFL coming in and what the ratings do. But we're tracking all of that. We have attendance stuff, all this kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. About the Alliances Broken, David says they're wasting all the money on a league that didn't finish the season. I'm not really sure what David is talking about. Talking about the AAF, and it's a documentary. So, and it's, I don't know. I think some people half read stuff. Here's one. Tom, our friend Tom from Canada, talking about they had a great show. The Markcast had a live show after this past week's game. I was on there. A bunch of people were on there. It was a good time. A lot of good comments about people saying do this all the time. just to have a place to go after the game, after the Thursday night game, to check it out. And by the way, Markcast will be having Dave Naylor potentially live this Thursday. Before or after the game, they're locking down the details, but you go check out Markcast. There, we got a link to them on our YouTube page, and their links are all, of course, all over our Facebook stuff. So just search up Markcast, and you can see that live show, and as well as the one with Dave Naylor. But Tom says CFL news from people who just watched their very first game ever, like getting pilot lessons from someone who just saw their first airplane. Now, we've been getting this kind of a very small select people of the CFL world are very strange because they say their game is the best and it's better than the NFL, and it is a fun game. But they certainly try to, but they don't want outsiders in. I wonder if they do that in their own country as well. Like, we got to start somewhere. And Tom, who keeps posting stuff on there, Tom, you're not my father, and I didn't listen to him, and I'm not going to listen to you. And so I don't care what you say. We're going to continue to do this. This is the type of people that keep people away from doing things. Or like, these are the people that tell you no all the time. It's because I don't know what's going on in Tom's life and his carving works business. Maybe he's going under. I don't know what his deal is, but pray for you, Tom, and hope that whatever your deal is, that you will maybe lighten up a little bit and welcome people in. You seem like not a very welcoming guy, because I'll tell you what, in the end, after the season over, we'll know a lot more about this league than you, my friend. And so, and by the way, my dad died when, and I think I might have talked about this before on this program, but my dad died when I was in my 20s and when I was in college. And one of the things that he died at 52, thyroid cancer. It was one of those things where he was, Dad's got a cold, and then a month later he was dead of cancer. And so my mission in life was to do what you do, enjoy what you're doing, and go all out, because you never know what can happen. And so people like Tom I got 2 words for you, and it's from a famous faction called DX, and I'll just leave it at that. But we'll continue to do what we do, and despite that. But it's weird because there are some Canadian fans that try to bully both us and the Markcast because they didn't want to watch their league. So if your league is so great, why would you not be so welcoming? I just think there's more to them than just that. So, yeah, we get these messages all the time. Not as frequently anymore. On about Randy Ambrosie's commissioner now ruling out more talks with the XFL. Again, this article came from somebody in Canada, not us. Brett says, gee, great, more wasting time and giving their failing league more of our ideas. Sounds like a plan. Let's see. Oh, Tom, our friend, says, failing league, I hate to break it to you, but when it's gone bankrupt twice and no longer in operation, the verb is past tense. Failed league is more appropriate. Jack says they need to move on already, cost them a season. Yeah, I mean, this whole CFL thing, who did it really benefit in the end? That would be an interesting question. I feel like if it didn't, I don't know, man. I don't know. This XFL could have done something coming in 2022, but then there was talk that there wasn't really any plan to even do anything in 2022. But they're exploring all their options. And then if you think you got a 100-year brand, which is what the XFL has talked about, then what's another year? But now the problem is, who knows what the spring is going to look like this year? Maybe they knew, who knows? That maybe that this thing that's going on, maybe they've planned that a little bit more. And, it's like, hey, we really need to get this thing out, because we can't run a league without fans in the stands. And if there's any even inkling that there could be something hindering fans from coming to the stadium, we can't open up shop. And so maybe that played a factor in it too. We'll find out. We'll have another documentary made about the CFL, XFL talks, and then the CFL, XFL closing up shop. We should have documentaries on those two. We should definitely work on that. More stuff. Tom needs to lighten up. Oh, that's the same one. Let's go on to our YouTubes. He hate me says, love the XFL, about our interview with former Guardians Derek Dennis. Still not playing in the CFL. We will see if he makes a return coming back here soon. Ron, let's see, Theodore checking in. It's a great interview with Derek Dennis. It's good to hear from a lineman perspective. Look forward to hearing his podcast. Me too. Should be coming out soon. Stay tuned for that on CFL News Hub. Ron says in 2022, XFL, CFL still talking, said CFL commissioner. They're not talking anymore. Theodore says Ambrosi telling the world he hasn't closed the door on the XFL brings more eyes to the CFL. Having a relationship between the two leagues makes them stronger off the field as well. I agree with that. That brought an interest in that league as never before. No reaction on the Instagram thing. Let's take a look at some of our pals on the Facebook and Instagram. Javier says, hi, Mark. Reed Johnson says, year from Hawaii, Mark. Yes, aloha from Hawaii, which is probably like 6 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. Or no, it's like mad early. I remember watching Family Guy when I was in Hawaii, and it was like, 1 o'clock, but it was like 8 o'clock my time or something. Jared says, XFL should keep their eyes on playing first before talking to the CFL. I agree with that. Bryce says, just want St. Louis football back after they're being mistreated by the NFL. They need a football team. Totally agree there. You might get your football team in the form of the USFL. We'll have to stay tuned for some of that kind of interesting things. And on the other chat, we got Paladin says he made it on time. Thank goodness. We'll get to his pictures. Let's get to his pictures right now. First up, we got Paladin sent us some of his cool pictures. He says, showing off original team this time. Still working on the Orlando Rage. Another podcast is doing a special month showing off our org teams. Mine is inspired by the Simpsons Junior Football League team, the Springfield Wildcats. And yes, orgs can be used for the XFL Wildcats since they were billed with the heaviest offense. Plus, unique to Blood Bowl orgs can punt teammates for additional crazy. Also, boulders for footballs, and my favorite beer bottle wielding lineman. All right, let's check out some of his cool pictures, shall we? On the social. This is pretty cool. Pictures, very talented, Mr. Paladin Demo. Very cool pictures. I mean, look at the artistry. You definitely got to send me a couple of these. I'll put them on my shelf. This is pretty cool. Those are little guys. Very cool. I liked it. I could see the little bottles. That's fun. Oh, look at this guy. He's like about to punt. Very cool. I mean, these are very cool. Wow, look at the detail, man. Awesome stuff. Paladin Demo checking in with his pictures. Very cool there. Appreciate sending in. I think the fans enjoy checking out the pictures. Also, we have our friend Gary sent this in. Let's see. This cool picture. Remember I was talking about him last week. He sent this cool picture in. So that's me with my hat backwards, my DC Defender stuff, and I got the little sword, and there's a dragon attacking me, just hanging out on the rooftop on top of a Guardian stuff. You got the Viper. You got the Roughneck guy in there. Is that a tiger? Or is that Finn? That looks like a cat. Wildcat right there. This is a pretty cool picture, man. He's a great artist, isn't he? Keep telling him. Awesome artist. So give him a shout out. He's on Twitter. Hang out with him on Twitter. Give him some. He is GBMCD1. Let's check his stuff out on Twitter. Very cool. Thanks for drawing up that picture. Isn't that awesome? I definitely want that poster form on my thing, on my wall somewhere. Let's see what else. Jonathan says CFL had 3 upsets the first week, and the other game, the road team covered the line. Yeah, those games were fun. It was fun to watch. And the funny thing is, I listened to a lot of people who had, been in the CFL game for years, and they were it was funny to listen to them after the games were played to hear their take. And I'm like, oh, we weren't as far off as everybody was far off. I mean, there was some of the games were close. And I had friends watching the games, and they were asking questions about the CFL. And we'll see if this momentum can continue and people can stay safe. Paladin says, been watching the Elf highlights. Yes, on CFL News Hub, we have Elf stuff going on there. Jonathan says, this week, Winnipeg should win at home. Edmonton almost won last week. Should win over Montreal. I don't know. I don't know about if Montreal will be good. Ticats did not look good. And we'll talk about all this stuff on the CFL show on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So you come check it out. He says, Ticats have another long trip, so Sask should win. Calgary, BC will be close if Riley plays Calg by 2. He hate me, he says the XFL needs 4 downs. Totally like that. And Paladin says, don't think any crossover is happening. I agree. I just thought it was fascinating that Randy Ambrosi, that topic came up again. And not only that, but the way he phrased things makes me think that there's something going to happen in the CFL. I think the XFL is definitely on the sidelines for now. I don't think they're going to start talking. I think the XFL is just going to go off and do its own thing. But I think there's going to be some potential major changes coming to the CFL once they wrap up the season in December, and hopefully we can go to a couple games if everything is cool. Speaking of Gary, he's got this one. He says, I didn't know the future of the XFL, USFL, or CFL. However, only one of them is playing currently, and I enjoy the differences in the game. My hope for a spring league in the States continues, and who knows, the CFL might play a part in that. So check out his great picture here. Look at this. I mean, this is great. He's got all the different teams and the different fans. I can't move it around, can I? No, not really. But yeah, check that out. Pretty cool picture. So give him a follow and a like on the social media stuff. I'm going to have to just add that to, let's add that to our other show. You get a full copy of that. And next week's show, I'm just going to add it right here on the show for next week for the CFL show, so you can check it out in full picture mode. But it's really a great picture. Give him a follow. Remember, it's GBMCD1 on Twitter. Check out all his art. It's fantastic stuff. Let's see here. It's about the CFL commissioner not ruling out more talks with the XFL. Alex, with a bunch of numbers, says, when will this stop? This is just a waste of time for the XFL 2023. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's kind of frustrating for XFL fans that, like, what did we gain out of that? Maybe we will find out if there's a team in Toronto. And The Rock, he is doing stuff. He's coming out with a new cleat of all things. He says they never came true. He wanted to create something special with significance. Sometimes unanswered prayers are a blessing. Dwayne Johnson's Project Rob drops some new football gear and cleat. So our own Josh Davis actually met up with The Rock, but not really. This was at a restaurant. I forget what restaurant, like Applebee's or something, is selling Terramana tequila. So he took a picture of her and he said, The Rock, when are you going to talk about the XFL? That's a great point. So we have our crack staff, Josh Davis, interviewing filmmakers, meeting with one of the biggest stars in the world. It was a cardboard cutout. Trying to get the scoop for all you XFL fans. So we appreciate Josh hounding The Rock while The Rock was hanging out eating at Jared says that art is so good. Talking about our man GB McD with his great artwork there. Anything else in the chat room? Richard says, I'm going to watch Alliance is Broken. Cool. Rangers King 669. If it comes out tonight, I'll stay up to watch it. Like at midnight. Very cool. Steve. Oh, let's go Alliance Broken. You guys are the best. Steve Potter in the chat room checking in. We can't wait to check out your film. And I have an idea for a production company 5 years down the road, and you will certainly be at the top of the list for some ideas I have for movies. But I have big plans for XFL News Hub, CFL News Hub, and what the next 5 years are going to look like. So excited to have somebody that, experienced covering these leagues. And I think this documentary will do real well. And we're totally excited to check it out. Richard says, Argos, that's his team. Hey, Argos have got the most XFL players. If you don't have a CFL team, the Argos is your team. It was fun to watch Sean Oakman and a couple other good players on there. He looked pretty good. We'll see what's that done. Paladin Demo says, soon as the Rage are done, DC Defenders. That's what I'm talking about. Richard says, any news from the XFL? Nothing. We've had Randy Ambrosie, and criticism is what it is. Randy Ambrosie has talked more about the XFL in the last month or two than The Rock, Danny Garcia, or anybody involved with the XFL. So come on, guys. We need something. We're now in August. You need something big. Let's go. It's time. It's time to get the fans fired up and want to buy the merch this is the time. August would be a great time. Put something out there. You're getting people fired up, and then the holidays are around the corner, and they're going to buy the merch. Get them fired up, and then you can make some money. Richard also says, all I know is that I'm going to watch it tomorrow when I get off work. Cool. So a lot of people checking out Alliance is Broken. I already did the prepay deal, so I'll be watching it this week. We'll give a little recap next week as well. And that's it for the news this week, my friends. Thanks for checking in. Hope everything worked all right with this new computer. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, contact us, podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s, videos, or call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. And if you're watching on the stream, or even if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like and subscribe. Make sure you smash that like button and give us a subscribe. The like button sends that YouTube algorithm and lets people know about the podcast that's going on. Spreads the word that, yes, the XFL still exists. And then remember to check out our CFL News Hub show, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. as well. And we'll get a full recap, fantasy stuff, all that good stuff. And all this CFL games are on demand on ESPN Plus, so you can go by and check them out, fast forward through some of the commercials. And I got some even plans for that too. Oh, yeah. So check us out on CFL News Hub. If anything breaks, we will get that to you again. Thanks for checking in, my friends. Stay safe out there. Remember, show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. Check out the documentary Alliance is Broken on Amazon Prime and Apple TV, coming out tonight, at least August 10th. That will come out. You can pre-order it now. For show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. You can listen to this show anywhere. That's it for me, folks. Enjoy this week. Maybe this will be your first time checking out some CFL games. Let us know how that goes. And if we got any XFL news, you guys will be the first to know. That's it for me, folks. And I will see you all later. Check out Markcast, by the way, with Dave Naylor live Thursday night after the CFL games. Do that as well. That's it. Peace. Later.